PGUSD School Board is 5:30. Roll call, please.
Trustee Path,
Here.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Here.
trustee Rivera,
Here.
trustee Carolyn Swanson, trustee Dawson,
Here.
superintendent Porras,
Here.
assistant superintendent Chin Bendit.
Here.
She is
Okay.
in here. I gave her a
Thank you
code.
very
Okay, see her now.
This is what's known as belting it. Get on this.
much. Okay, now we see a little.
Mandy, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi,
Thank
Carol.
you.
Call to order, roll call, adoption of agenda. I see that we have a walk-on item, which actually, did you give us all a copy?
I believe copies have been distributed and it's on the web and will also be presented tonight.
It's in this folder.
Mhm. Yeah, the walk on, your blue folder, sorry.
Okay, so we have the addition of a walk-on item, which is,
Anyways,
I do not have that.
right here.
Thank you. Which we will put at the end of our, and this is consent. Yeah, a walk-on item on it.
No, it'll go to action.
Yeah, let's go to action. Let's go to that. So we have one remote board member. All votes will be a roll call vote tonight. So this will go to action discussion. It'll be at the end of action discussion. You kind of make a copy. Thank you so much. So with that, we are going to move to adopt the agenda. Anything else on there, Ralph, that we need to change?
If I may, I just want to quick mention that we had some consent items that it was pointed out were some errors, and those errors have all been corrected. And consent A and consent F, I sent those correction notices to you all as well. So the items still remain consent with those corrections made. And we'll get the public hearing as a correction there. We can note it.
Thank you.
Other than that, there are no changes. To
Board questions, concerns on the agenda? We go now.
Not at this time.
No?
None.
Okay, thank you. We will go ahead and motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second. By Christy Dawson, seconded by Frank Rivera. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Path,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you all very much. We will have our closed session topic. The board will meet in closed session to consider matters appropriate for closed session in accordance with Education Government Code. We'll talk about the negotiations, planning and preparation with PGTA, negotiations, planning and preparation with CSEA, two cases of public employee discipline, and one consideration of student discipline. Public comment? Anybody online?
Nope.
Seeing none, we will move into closed session. Thank you all.
6:40, we are reconvening in open session. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of PGUSD School Board. During closed session, we discussed collective bargaining, planning and preparation with CSEA, collective bargaining, planning and preparation with PGTA, two cases of public employee discipline dismissal release. We did not get to the last item.
No, we didn't get to the last item.
So we will have to reconvene in closed session at the end of this meeting to consider our last item. Oh, after which we will report out on that. With that, would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Garcia, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Okay. We move into written communications. Mr. Swanson, you were tracking that for me this
Yeah,
week.
I recalled just two this last week, one relating to a bus or lack thereof over the weekend that situation that did get rectified, and another from a parent expressing some concern about some language used during one of our high school classes. I believe that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Board member comments. Ms. Gaona is not with us tonight. We will start with Dr. Rivera.
Well, there's a couple of things that happen in this district that is really exciting. Some things that are going to happen this week, but I'm not going to steal the thunder away from our principals. I'll just make this brief. I'm really excited about what's happening at the national level. And I'm talking specifically about the vaccination of children 5 to 11. It looks like that's moving along smoothly. And I'm sure everyone is just really gleeful about that. So am I. Other than that, that's all I have. Be safe this
Dawson.
weekend.
I'll continue on the national level. I got to hear a bit today of the Biden talking about the new plan with TK being part of the new movement throughout the country, and that being supported by the federal government and throughout everywhere. And I'm just very elated about that. They're talking about it being such a game changer, such a wonderful opportunity to get to our youngest kids quickly and really get them on the right educational path. So that's some very good news. I'll stick with that for tonight.
Thank you very much. Ms. Swanson.
Yeah, thanks, John. I have a couple of things to report on. Just first of all, my written communications, I received one on Down syndrome awareness, on a pumpkin patch at Forest Grove, Monterey County Town Hall regarding student vaccinations, which is actually taking place right now at the same time as our meeting, and a sales email regarding alarm systems at schools. And I mentioned it at the last board meeting that I was going to report back that I was meeting with 2 high school students this weekend who had reached out. And I kind of just took notes from my conversation with them and then asked those students, kind of sent my statements in a summary email to them, asked them if I was accurate in capturing their sentiments, and they said that I was accurate. So I'm just going to share that with you because I think it's important for the whole board to hear how these 2 very bright, very professional, very mature high school students are feeling. So they would like to see students encouraged to speak up more at the high school. And that encouragement can take many forms. For example, educating students on the chain of command at school districts so they know who to speak up to, including at the district office. It can take the form of showing that when a student does speak up, that there is action taken by school adults to remedy the issue, and that students who speak up are protected. They mentioned that after the incident at the high school regarding an ASB member earlier this year, that offensive comments and rhetoric remain on campus, but are simply more hidden from adults. They asked for a review of the ASB bylaws to ensure that a clear route is established to recall an elected member. They're hoping for a culturally proficient high school culture so that all minority groups, including the LGBTQ+ community, disabled community, and BIPOC community feel safe and welcome. They're hoping that diversifier narrative can be incorporated at both elementary schools. And they're hoping that culturally appropriate practices be applied to existing events and new events, for example, including accurate history on events. So I thought that was really important to share with you guys. And I'll be forwarding that to Mr. Garcia as well, so he can just have that. And then a couple of fun things or highlights for the schools. I love seeing Mr. Kelly's high school art class artwork in the last newsletter. I was able to attend the Forest Grove principal check-in this week where we had, I say we, I'm just a parent at the school, but Mr. Rogaman had 47 people attend that principal check-in, which is just, to me, remarkable. I noticed that the volleyball team is undefeated. That's amazing. And going back to the pumpkin patch, that was on KSBW last night on the news. So that was really cool. And those are my comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Mr. Swanson.
A couple things. I popped into movie night last Friday and it looked like it was going to rain. It was really great to see like 50 kids out on the field on the non-goose poop end of the field, and snacks galore. And the film actually looked really great. I mean, they did a fantastic job of presenting that. So there's that. And I attended a presentation online on Monday presented by Lou Lozano and Sarah Kotz on contentious board meetings, which is fascinating and amazing at times. I know some of our meetings have occasionally gotten a little heated. Boy, you ain't seen nothing yet until you saw some of those things. So, it was well attended and a fabulous presentation. So I believe that's it for me.
Thank you very much. And the pumpkin and the video on KSPW and Ms. Luciano, thank you so very much for organizing. And Buck, you were well spoken on the video. Thank you very much. The bike event at Robert Down was pretty darn cool. That was neat to see. A lot of people out there. It's a beautiful day, actually. I mean, that was before the storm hit and flooded my garage. But it was really a nice, it was nice out there. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think I will stop at that. Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep it short in deference to the agenda. And plus, we just had a board meeting last week, so not too much happening. I want to thank Nurse Pally for many things, but in particular for helping to arrange our own district flu shot session that happened this past Tuesday. I believe it was in the evening times. I took advantage of that myself, but she was able to get the VNA to come and do a special session just for our folks here, and apparently it was very well attended. So that was great to see. We'll see if we have more people interested, we might be able to provide that again for another round. So hopefully that will come to pass. I did get a chance to visit a number of sites again this week, which I was always pleased. Anytime I have a chance to do that, it was great. And Mr. Ogerman invited me to the pumpkin patch. Actually, the teacher did invited me, and so I had a chance to see that. That was, of course, wonderful to see, watch what's happening there. And last but not least, other than that, well, two things. I did have a chance to meet with 3 different parents on different issues that they had in regards to some of the things that we are working through on the equity plans for our district. And so I had a chance to have conversations with them, very supportive. A lot of folks are looking forward to that. So we're continuing that effort, and looking forward to November 18 when I can try to lay out a few more bits of information for you all. And next week, the Thursday and Friday, I will be up in San Francisco for the annual AXA Leadership Summit. I'll be presenting there as well as attending. So looking forward to that. And that would be the first time we're actually meeting in a full conference again in a couple of years. So it'll be good. Other than that, I'll leave it to the agenda. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. We will move to PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the PGUSD staff wishing to speak?
Good evening, members of the board. Just wanted to take this opportunity to invite you to Forest Grove's Trunk or Treat that we're going to have tomorrow night, starting at 6 o'clock. There'll be some nicely decorated cars that people will be able to walk by, and then our students will have a treat that's pre-prepared for them that they'll be able to receive at the end of the evening. It'll be a great warm up for the actual holiday on Sunday, and so if you have a chance, come on out. Also wanted to just express my gratitude to the certificate and classified staff at Forest Grove. Just, you know, the pumpkin patch was just one example of all of the effort and all of the work that's gone into not just the teaching and learning that's going on at Forest Grove, but also trying to have some little opportunities where we have some fun too. I think that's one of the things that we don't want to lose track of this year, are those opportunities to have a good time while we're at campus too. And tomorrow, we're going to have a parade on site. That's really going to be for students and staff only. But it's going to be exciting to see the costumes that people are wearing. And Forest Grove staff is dressing up as forest animals. So that alone is going to be a sight to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Buck. Any other staff member in the room? Anyone online? Oh, two. We have two online. So who's up? Mr. Keller.
Thank you, President Pat. Sean Keller, proud principal at Robert Down Elementary School. And after you go to the trunk and treat, scoot on over to Robert Down for the Halloween party and movie tomorrow night. The movie will probably be starting a little after the trunk or treat, so you can go to both events. And I promise you'll have some popcorn. Mr. Rogoman and I are planning with our counselors to hopefully start a new tradition. We are waiting for the city to approve our application to begin our Let's Read book series that Sonda Fruden has begun in the district that focuses on diversity and inclusion. And we're hoping to do this at Jewel Park every month on the first Monday. And again, I think we got our application in a little late for this Monday, but if they do allow us to do that Monday, I'll get the word out there to everyone. But I think we're going to have to wait to a later date in November or until the first Monday in December, so the city can contemplate and possibly vote us in at their council member or their council meeting coming up. Please know that this upcoming Thursday is Aloha Day, and that is in the spirit of memory of Jen Hinton. So please, if you have any kind of Hawaiian wear or Outlay, please put it on for that day and remember Jen for the wonderful things that she brought to our community. And don't forget that on November 13th, our PTAs are all getting together for a mix and mingle at First Awakenings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. I will send you a photo of me wearing a Hawaiian shirt on Thursday. Thank you. We have one more online. Mr. Roach.
Good evening, everyone. Sean Roach, proud principal of Pacific Grove Middle School. And this week we enjoyed Red Ribbon Week, where we celebrated a pledge to be drug-free. The events culminated in Red Ribbon Ball finals, pitting the 7th grade versus the staff. The bad news, we got crushed. The good news is, Billy, there were no workers' comp claims, so you should be happy about that. This week, we also administered our SEL survey, and I have to tell you that the Synergy platform did a really, really good job. We're anxiously looking forward to reviewing that data and comparing it to the spring results. Finally, our our PTA hosted our first honors breakfast in about 2 years, and we estimate that about 400 students and family members attended. It was wonderfully done. Darcy Tuinega from our foods class made several hundred breakfast burritos, which were absolutely delicious. It was really a nice time to see the community back out. We held it outside by the track. There were geese, but that was okay. They stayed at bay. So had a wonderful week, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roach. Ms. Silva.
Director Silva, I just wanted to point out that next week during Parent Conference Week for Elementary, we are going to be training our classified staff to build their capacities to support our students with our 2 fabulous intervention teachers, Heather Zunguzi and Mary Quindamil, on SIPS training as well as DIBBLES 8, which are reading programs. And then also they will also be having the third of 3 social emotional learning trainings through the Institute for Social Emotional Learning next week. So our classified staff are in for a treat next week, but we appreciate them very much, and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Silva. Anyone else online? Seeing none, we will move to individuals desiring to address the board. Public comment on any item of interest to the public within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will limit comments to no more than 3 minutes for each agenda or non-agenda item, and a total time for public input is 20 minutes pursuant to board policy 9323. Public comment will also be allowed and is preferred on each specific action prior to board action thereon. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Note the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. The board may choose to direct items for administration. Excuse me. The board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on a future agenda. Any member of the public wishing to speak?
Good evening. Regardless of state mandates and recommendations by regulatory agencies, should be the choice for parents to decide what goes into their child's body and not for the school to police. This gene therapy is being fast-tracked and requires a minimum of 5 years of data before it can be fully evaluated for safety. Parents are being misinformed by the 95% efficacy of antibodies for this 5 to 11-year-old age group. Antibodies are not the first line of defense for the immune system. Based on the CDC's MMWR report, per 100,000 children, the jab will prevent 18 children from being hospitalized for COVID-19, and this is great, but 43 will be hospitalized because of the injection. This is not being presented by the media, so beware. Data presented at the FDA hearing a couple of days ago shows a very large risk in reproductive and heart health, yet that is being ignored. This gene therapy is causing more harm than good for this age group. Should the EUA be approved for the Pfizer shot for the 5 to 11-year-old, I would caution the board to not blindly follow the state school mandate and enforce vaccine proof. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have no one else online. We will move forward to the consent agenda. Consent agenda. Board, the consent is, everything on there is normal and commonplace for the most part, except the very last item, which is DNA entertainment, which we have done time and again at the high school. So if there are comments or concerns, Brian, anything?
I have no comments or concerns
Christie?
about consent.
Nor I.
Frank?
Nope.
Carolyn?
Yeah, thanks, John. I did have some comments and concern, but I emailed them in earlier and they were remedied. They were pretty much just some,
Yeah.
just seeing if there's anything that should be like.
Thank you for the others corrections.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it sounds like we might be getting a revised. No, actually, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any public comment on consent? With that, do I have a motion to accept consent as presented?
So moved.
Second.
That was kind of fun. The motion made by, I don't know, it was seconded by Carolyn. Who made the motion? Motion made by Frank Rivera and seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Thank you all very much. So public, for your information, we have had a clarification on how stop. That's what happens. You set a timer.
Holy
You must be
cow.
kidding. Oh, I'm a little embarrassed. It doesn't know my own face right now. We must have roll call votes if everyone is not present in the same room. Is that correct? So everything will be a roll call vote tonight, which is fine. But we will be moving forward with that understanding. So, okay, we move forward to a public hearing on the MOU with,
We still,
we took a vote?
oh, yeah, I guess we did, right?
We
Yeah,
did,
sorry.
5-0.
I've lost track too. So it's all good.
That's what happens. You hear an alarm, you hear a little beep and everything goes. Moving on. We move on to the public hearing of the Memorandum of Understanding with Pacific Grove Teachers Association. Dr. Porras, this is you.
Actually, this is with our Assistant Superintendent, Jim Bendib.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
Okay.
Jim Bendib.
I'm glad, I would be glad to.
Oh,
Dr.
no,
Forrest
well,
take it. That's okay. This is the memorandum of understanding with Pacific Grove teachers for the 21-22 school year only.
Song, I do need that. I'm sorry. This is a public hearing, so we will open it as a public hearing. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, as anytime that involves a settlement agreement with any bargaining group, official bargaining group that involves dollars or will be fiscally impacted, we have to go through a process called the AB 1200 Assembly Bill, which requires a public hearing and requires actually a process with the county office where they have up to 10 days, 10 business days to review our calculations, to review our proposal, whether we can afford the settlement or not. Now, by law, the county office does not have the right or the authority to reject the settlement, but they can make the school district to adjust its budget to accommodate the settlement. So that's how the process works. And we just want to commend the county as usual to work with us expeditiously to make it on time for the board packet. So this was done before the publication of this the materials here. This settlement essentially in terms of fiscal, there are a lot of items, but the MOU is attached. But in terms of fiscal is basically up to 5 days, compensated up to 5 hours per week average over a 30-day period. But if anything is over that, was subject to the administration's approval. The 5 hours will be, when requires administration's approval. And with that, the dollar amount, and this is retroactive to July 1st. This is July 1st, 21-22 school year. And the dollar amount estimated at a little bit over $89,000, $89,858. And this is an estimated cost with statutory benefits, because with every dollar we have to pay for also stirs anything on a case by case, whether it's applicable or not. And also with unemployment, workers' comp and Medicare costs. So that's where we stand. The county has reviewed it and they have sent approval letter as well. Any questions?
Well, I have a couple questions on the MOU, just on some actions. The method by which we are ensuring that sorry, I lost track here. We do have a testing statement if you are not vaccinated in here, correct?
Oh, I see the MOU.
Testing statement, testing option, if not vaccinated, that's already for all employees, but
That's
that's
for all employees.
that's already in state law, yeah.
What we wanted to do was match the district policy that was put in place with the state requirement that came forward.
Okay. I have nothing else. I'm Christie,
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Rivera.
Just 2 quick points of clarification. On page 29, it says if a student or staff member is exempt from wearing a mask indoors, all parents and guardians of the student in the affected classroom will be notified in writing by the site administration. I was just wondering that if there was a parent or that felt uncomfortable with their student in that classroom, what are their options? Just to change into another classroom or to disenroll? Or is it those 2 options?
we have the placement in place. We have the layers of safety that are in place. So the option that would be available to the parent, if they wanted their child removed from the class, we can consider another class placement, or they could do the distance learning. If the alternative class placement would put the numbers such that it created an imbalance, say that 12 people made that request, we wouldn't be able to honor the request of all 12 people. In our experience, that hasn't been the case, that after the parents were notified and with the other layers of safety that we have in place, we did not have any parents that made a request to have students removed from a classroom where a student has such a note.
Well, thank you. And then my second question was, so the district will, any PG, this is on page 31 of the board packet. 31, 32. At the bottom of page 31, it reads, any PGTA bargaining member who is required to provide any combination of in-person and online instruction concurrently will do so under the following conditions. Condition A being, the district will solicit qualified volunteers to provide the concurrent instruction before tasking any unit member to perform the services. And I was just wondering if our teachers allowed to volunteer if they want to.
This is calling for teacher volunteers.
okay.
This is not volunteers from out in the community. This would be other unit members that would volunteer to take on that position before a unit member was directed to do so.
Great. And that's it. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Ms. Swanson.
Yeah, thanks, John. Page 28 says PGTA members will not have to watch or supervise kids who are unmasked while they're eating if they're on modified quarantine. And can you just talk about that a little bit? Is that typically a role that a PGTA member would be asked to do?
I think in the scenario that we were looking at different options for rainy day lunch. And in the event that teachers were asked to supervise during a rainy day lunch period and students were unmasked indoors and eating, that's what this is applying to, that they would not be asked to do that supervision. In our current rainy day lunch plans, all of the staffing will be done by either classified staff or by admin, and at the elementary level. Well, at Forest Grove, it'll all be outdoor eating still, even on a rainy day.
Okay. And then Dr. Portas, page 30, where it doesn't specify a middle school teacher, but it does specify elementary and high school teachers. Will that be added, or where are we at on that?
Yes, I appreciate that question was asked in advance. It should be included. We're going to work and try to figure out how to get that added on so it's represented.
And how does that work procedurally tonight if we're approving this?
Just in the action, you can note that with the addition of the middle school.
Okay, like a friendly amendment, or in the initial action itself?
Make it right within the action that you
Okay.
that requested that be admitted. We're gonna, obviously, the intent was to have it included. We'll make sure of that and then get the addition going. If there's a problem, then we'll bring it back to the board.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. With that, we will open up to public comment on this item. Online. Hey, we will bring the public hearing to a close. So, public hearing is now closed. And actually, Ms. Richmond, I know that these things take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I appreciate the work that has gone into it from all sides. So thank you all very, very much. And please express that to everyone else. I know you're not alone in this. So we go immediately into action discussion on the same item. I do not suspect, but we'll ask anyway. Board, please speak up if you have any further questions at this time on the MOU with PGTA. Hear nothing from the board. Any further public comment? Do I have a motion? And Carolyn, I will actually ask you to make a motion with the amendment that you prefer.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Because there's actually real quick, Dr. Portas, on page 37, where it says that the funding source is general fund. I think that that's also supposed to include ESSERS 3 or general fund. So shall I add that to the motion?
You can if you like. Yes, that's correct. We'll make that correction for sure either way. It's not
Okay.
necessary, but you're more than welcome to.
Okay, we might as well. Okay, so I make a motion to approve action item A on staff's recommendation with the following changes: to have middle school teacher added to page 30 for coverage on for item 8B on page 30, and then also for page 37 to have the ESSERS 3 funding included, as well as the general fund.
And
Motion made by Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you also very much. And again, to those in the negotiating sessions there, thank you very much. District update in response to COVID-19. Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just pulling up an email here from Nurse Pally, so I make sure I have the information correct. Just a couple of items since the last time we met. We are proceeding, as mentioned before, with the pool testing. And as of 45 minutes ago, Nurse Pally is working on the timeline to get the pool testing in on November the 15th and for the elementary, and then November the 29th for secondary. Those are the earliest time slots that apparently were optional. We'll be sure to get information to you and everybody as soon as we can finalize that information, but there were several application forms that apparently needed to be repeated several times. We don't know why. So we're working on that and getting that taken care of. We're excited about it. A request was made by a trustee to make sure this is included in the COVID safety plan. We just have not had time yet to add that to the plan, but it will be included. It will be taking measures with that. Also, wanted to note that regards to elementary vaccinations, when we get the green light to do that from the state and direction to move forward, we do have cooperation already arranged with the Monterey Fire Department to set up vaccine clinics at our elementary schools directly. And for ages 5 to 12. And we're just waiting for, of course, the FDA to allow that to move forward. And there's an approval from the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which allows that process to start. So as soon as we get that green light, the fire department is going to be working with us, and we'll get that rolling. So we're pretty excited about that as well in regards to the facilitation that they provided for us. So I want to just again acknowledge Nurse Pally for doing a lot of research and a lot of legwork to take care of these items. And I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you very much. On the 2 through 12 vaccination, what's the feedback from the state on mandatory or not mandatory?
For students, as far as I understand, they're looking to make it mandatory, but because they want all students to have vaccinations by a certain time. But we'll see if they change that. We're still waiting for final mandates.
Okay, so we don't know as yet what that direction will be.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And in terms of on this MOU, we talk about masks and frankly, keeping other things available. How are we doing on masks and general supplies for COVID?
As far as I know from our inventory, we're still doing very well. Anywhere where there is if any of the sites have a shortage or a concern or need, all they need to do is just communicate with Nurse Pally and or us at the district office, and we can arrange to get that supplies replenished. District-wide, however, we're doing very well. Nurse Pally will be working on more orders that are being made available through the county office, which will enrich our supply.
Okay, and with our Binax kits in general, we're still at 1,000 plus.
I'm not sure what the number is at this point, but yes, I think we're pretty close. We haven't had a lot of cases at this point. There hasn't been a lot of testing happening at the sites.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Swanson, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Swanson, any questions?
I just wanted to clarify, John, when you asked about state mandates for 2 to 12, did you mean 5 to 11 or what were you asking
No,
about?
I did say 2 through 12.
Yeah.
12 is already allowed and mandated. So really it's, I don't know what age they will present.
5.
You're saying 5?
Five.
Okay, so 5.
Yeah.
But
Okay, okay.
my expectation is I've certainly read stuff as low as 2 years old. So, I don't know where somebody's going to go.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the CDC's review on November 3rd or 4th so that we can know for sure whether or not our students are will be eligible to get vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. That's great that the Monterey Fire Department. Can you just clarify, Dr. Portas, do you mean that the fire department will be at Forest Grove and at Robert Down and possibly at the middle school, like they're in person able to vaccinate children?
That's what we're working on, correct? At our
okay.
sites. Because as I mentioned before, we've already volunteered our sites for vaccination clinics and I believe that's the direction that we're heading. If something changes, I'll certainly let you know.
Carolyn,
And
may I
if-
follow up on that question?
Of course.
With that, are we eliminating it? Yeah.
What?
Golly, are we,
What was that?
are we saying any student? Are we opening it up to anyone in the community?
I
in-
think the
in
focus
general
will,
and
I think the
anyone-
focus will be on the elementary students. However, I imagine they will open it up to whomever they
we
usually
would,
do.
we would not be limiting that if that were the
Right.
case.
And,
Okay.
and also any other vaccination sites that would be open, I'm certain that Montage Health will be involved as they always have been. So I'm sure that there will be other clinics that will be opening up opportunities nearby as well. So
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Carolyn. Thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, no sorries. And then just to clarify for any parents who may be nervous or wanting to wait on getting their child vaccinated, this vaccination clinic with the fire department is not something that we would do. It sounds like a parent would need to register with this vaccination clinic that happens to be on our school site, but it's not something that the school is just going to be willy-nilly vaccinating children.
correct, correct. It's facilitated by the fire department on our sites.
Okay, wonderful. That sounds great. And did you say, I'm sorry, did you say there was a date for pool testing to begin?
Yes, I did. And I need to find that email again because I filed it too soon.
November 15. I
November
believe it is,
15,
yeah.
thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are
In
all
and
my
around, in
questions.
and around the holidays. So, thank you.
Got it. Perfect.
Hopefully right
Thank you.
before. Thank you. We will open up to public comment on this item. We are discussing our COVID response.
So the firemen and the police. So I was here last week and I just wanted to tell everybody that the police are running a hate group right in front of Forest Grove. And I wrote a handwritten note to the police chief. Her name is Madeline. And I told her in August in a handwritten note that you can't have a bunch of right-wing guys doing whatever they want. And I even wrote in that note that they're gonna start going after girls. And I read in the newspaper, what happened in August? Somebody touched a girl here, right? 2 girls, and they didn't get charged. And they're recruiting right in front of the school. So who's involved? Teachers, board members? What staff is involved? I've seen all kinds of shit. So yeah, Santos too. Santos and Madelone and Perez. Look all those guys up. Tell me you trust those people. Maybe Madelone looks like she's a normal person or whatever, but no. Right after I sent her that note, she told me straight up, like, yeah, we're gonna come after you. So there it is, and those firemen,
Okay.
do you actually know them? You actually know who their friends are? You know what their politics are at all? So that's who your kids are going to school with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going online? Okay, with that, there is no action required on this item tonight.
Not tonight, no.
Okay, we move on to our 2021-2022 budget revision. Number 1, Ms. Chinben Dib.
Oh,
Okay, can you see it well?
Yes.
Okay. This is what we call preliminary first interim and or budget revisions number one. What we typically do is every year after we close the books of the prior fiscal year, in this case is 2021, and also after the hiring of new staff, replacing, retirees or resignations, staffing is pretty much is in place. So we'll do a recalibration of our position control and our payroll. And this is when we present to the board where we are at this point, budget revision before the first interim. The first interim is one of the required reports by the county and by the state, and is due before December 15. The next one is second interim is due March 15. So here we are. It's more like a quarterly report. Think of it as like after we close the books, after July 1, adopt the budget of the new budget year. And 3 months later, we do take a look again as our budget and see what kind of adjustments that we need. So as of the budget revision one, the first page shows where we stand. The fourth column from the left, it shows where we are, the revised budget for 21-22. The adopted budget was done on or before July, by law, July 1, and we did it in July, the second board meeting in June, sorry. And then by law, we have to present 2 subsequent fiscal years as well, because for every school district, we must have a balanced budget, not just a current budget year, but also for the second and third fiscal year. So the adopted budget, you can see it shows almost close to $1.1 million operating surplus. At that time, we did not have the settlement yet. We were still in the midst of finalizing settlement agreements with the bargaining groups for last year's salaries increase. So therefore, it did not include the salary increases last year in here. So now we do revised budget. So that's where we shows where we are. 2 major things. Number one, it shows the property tax showing 3.12 from last year's unaudited actuals, because the auditors will be presenting their results in January to the board. We have finished our books reviewed by them, but they have not certified yet. The 3.12%, and the reason it's relatively low as compared to prior years, the trend, and is posted on our website if anybody wants to see the trend of the property tax revenues over the years. 2 major reasons. One of them is that is the assessment of commercial properties, which include service industries such as restaurants. Roll every year from assessor's office goes out January 1st of each year. So for 2020, it went out, it was done in January 20, but the pandemic happened 3 months later. So those property owners did not get a reassessment of the properties, of their properties, even though they had requested that, because the roll was already done. The assessor was ready to send out the property tax bills in October. And they'll readjust it a little bit in July, but then pretty much it was done. So these people did not get a reassessment until now for 2021, which for us is 21-22 fiscal year. So that's reason number one. So, the assessor cited 2 major locations, Spanish Bay and the Links, that said they lost massive revenues, and therefore they get a recalibration, readjustment, or reassessment of the property. And the second piece is the inflation factor for 21-22, and this is set by the state, directing the assessor's office how much they can levy based on the Prop 13 valuation rate. As we all know, the rate cannot go up more than 2% each year, and it's called inflation factor. For this 21-22 fiscal year, the rate was only 1.04%. But it will go back up to 2% next year. So there's 2 major factors why it's 3.12. This 3.12 will not go anything majorly from here. The only thing that we can see potentially when we close these books, when in June, after the June 30th deadline is over, when we know in June, July, and August, whether there are any penalties or any late payment of property taxes by the homeowners, which we found that last year we had quite a bit of that. But whether that phenomenon will reoccur, that's the question. There's only really additional funds that we can see, and it's not a huge amount. As an example, we put in the budgets almost $203,000 of penalties and interest. Whether that will go above that, that's the question. Last year, we received, that's the first time over a number of years, was over our projection, was $375,000. So this question is whether we're going to experience penalties and interest by late payers of the property tax dollars. So that's the only thing that will adjust this rate. The other part is right here, we shows a deficit of 176,316. It's because we have carryover funds from the year before. Excuse me. It's always this pattern because for our departments and school sites to do purchase order, they can access the funds from prior years through this accounting where it shows in expenditures. It does not show in the revenue because the revenue was collected years prior. So with this accounting, we always show what is the carryovers and subtract it from this equation here. The carryover funds that have been put into used right now is 824,994. So with that, you can see the net amount is $648,000. The net amount here that shows that's the true operating surplus for 21-22, taking out the carryover funds. And then from that, we look at assumptions carry forward in 22-23, 23-24. With the income for the next budget year is 5%. And we work with the assessor's office. This is the number that he feels is comfortable in applying. Whether it would go higher or go lower, we wouldn't know until first of all the roll in January, that how much it was set, and then we'll know better when we received our first batch of cash or money in December, and then the next round it would be in April. The third year out is still really is anybody's guess what it's going to be. We just apply 3.15%, and we'll adjust as we progress when we build the budget. So this is a general fund. Going to the reserve, just real quickly, the reserve is, as we stand right now, without any changes, without any salary costs in here, including here, this year is 15.8%, next year is 18.8%, and then the out year is 21.7%. Now, a rule of thumb is always a question is how would that reduce and how does it translate into the budget? Let's suppose is, it's a 1% for this year as a reduction into our reserve. You just take it 3 times into the third year if it's ongoing. If it's one time, you just subtract it one time. So that's the way to look at the numbers already on a high level. So this general fund, and Mr. President, I'll just keep going through all the funds, come back for questions. Okay. Great. Adult Ed Fund. Adult Ed Fund is running positive with a positive fund balance with a revised budget with a little bit over $1.7 million. And it's the same thing. It's just because of pandemic, there are some expenses that didn't get to spend. It will be spent this year. And so you can see the carrying forward balances here is a little bit higher than what was estimated in July. And then with the projection going to the second and third year, it's still positive. What also Adult Ed also experienced a little bit higher amount and the Cape funds with the Adult Ed consortium money. There are 4 members, including us, and the allocation for 21-22 is a little bit higher. And we didn't know until we have adopted the budget for 21 and 22, and then we just incorporate the change adjustment into our revised budget right now. And that's what we do. You know, we always just incorporate information, annual estimates as we come across or as we get notification officially from either the county or from the state. And the budget is a dynamic document anyway. We won't know until we close the books, really the actual amounts. Going to the Child Development Fund. Child Development Fund, there are two parts. There's a state preschool, but also there's a before and after school program, the BSRP. So the BSRP that we started collecting fees this year, and we are very cautious. What the board, when we closed the books, the board approved us transferring last year when we closed the books, money to help them to kind of settle their stabilize the programs so that they have really before they start into the before and after school program, because we wouldn't know it's going to, after 12, 18 months, it's still going to take them a little bit of time to catch up with collecting fees. And in the past, they were self-sufficient, not only self-sufficient, they were able to help the state preschool as well. So this is where we are. It shows positive. And it was something with the second and out year. And we show the continuing the second and the third budget year, we still show that general fund is contributing to the program as well, assuming that they still needs help. This is assistance from a general fund. Of course, if the BSRP is collecting more fees, we can always readjust that assumption. Cafeteria Fund, this is really a huge change in a sense that if you look at the top here, the federal revenue, because of the free breakfast and lunch programs that we are doing now, and it continues by the initiative by the state going to next fiscal year as well, is going to see a huge dollar amount, a huge swing, 930,000 versus traditional, as you can see. Last year was a little bit more because we started this stimulus program a little bit mid-year, and you see the $470,000 and $81. But this year we already increased that because based on participation, it's free meal for all the kids. However, correspondingly, the increase, of course, with supplies and food costs. And as you can see, as a net to the program is still is not enough. If we just look at the equation of the revenues, thinking it's a huge dollar amount, almost $1 million, but then look at it correspondingly with expenditures, you know, we have more than $1 million. Therefore, the net effect is $75,000 negative for the year. But then because again, we contributed to the fund last year as projected, even though the program received more money from the federal and the state, we contributed, so there's still positive. But we'll take a look at after next year when we build the budget, looking into the second year, because as you can see, it's dwindling the fund balance. On 14, there's no change, no budget revisions at this point. This is a deferred maintenance fund. The board has directed us to keep going. This is the money set aside that is by the state, and we keep on really allocating, showing the amount here. And then with expenditures depending on types of service. Now that we have Measure D, and also we have the routine maintenance money that we must spend by law. This is like kind of somewhere, the category somewhere in between. Anything that's not met, that cannot be covered by our Measure D or by our routine maintenance will fall under this. And we are just showing about $25,000. And that helps to build up the fund balance a little bit. And I think that's the goal of the board as well. On 20, it's just a small amount. This is the post-employment benefits fund that we have, you know, is still valid, it's still in the system, is accumulated interest and balance, residual balance from years ago is about $6,000. And it's something that we have no activities within this fund. Fund 21, this is now two measures. We have the Measure A and Measure D. And then, of course, within each measure that we have different series of issuance of authorization just for each measure, but each series is within the with how staff work with, looking at projects, looking at cash flow needs, and we'll issue the series. Right now, without looking into details, we'll issue the next series of Measure A, which is the Education Technology Bond, which is the fourth series, Series D, $2 million. And then the second series of Measure B of Measure D is into the spring of 2022. So that's it will be in time for the summer for projects. And this is just a really high level, looking into the dollar amounts, allocations, how much each series, authorization of each series, and also how much we can spend. But each one, you have the details. The board does get that from each group. For Measure A, the Education Technology Bond, you approve that twice a year by semester. And the group is is meeting with the site tax, and to come out with a plan is about $3,000 for each semester, with a little bit of wiggle room in the budget, so in case there are emergencies. So that's how it is. It functions year after year. And then with Measure D, you get it from Director Kelly last time, presentation about what kind of projects, and it could fluctuate a little bit depending really on the urgency of our needs. Whether certain things, obviously the first year we had a lot more with the track, with the KNL wing, and with also the bell systems and so on and so on. So, and you can see that detail list, but this is just on a high level looking at the budget. Fund 40, this is capital outlay projects. This is the rental income from David Avenue. And as far as we can tell, they'll continue to rent from us. And we use this money to pay for leases of the buses. And really, the last payment is going to be next spring of 2023, actually 2 springs. So it's a fiscal year 22-23 will be done. And with that, it's also going to help us build up the reserve, barring any surprises. Or, one of these things that the board can use this money to match Measure D. Let's suppose we need to do, we will need to spend on the campus. And then we can perhaps really combine some of these funds so that we'll maximize the project, repair. And then the next 2 slides just that we have been continuing doing this is to show the board how much reserve. This is what we have. We don't have 2021 yet. We wouldn't know until February, but it's 1920. It showed this is average school district, unified school districts is 18.82%. And elementary school is a bit higher and high school a little bit lower. And then, of course, with basic aid, this is where we are. For us is last year is 14.4, and we don't have the average of basic aid school district yet until in 3 or 4 months. But the year before we were at 12.8%, and this is average, and this is a difference. And with that, I think that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much. If you leave that slide up at the end, one of my the things I say frequently is many a statistician has drowned in a stream that is only on average 2 feet deep, because that includes Hillsborough and Menlo Atherton and Palo Alto, all of whom have Google money and Facebook money. So it'd be interesting to see the actual median instead of just the mean on such data, because I suspect it is wildly skewed from a couple districts that
we can always ask for information in the median as well.
It might not, it's not readily available in this report you cited.
Right.
Planning on Measure A, you said that we are planning, and you said 3,000, it's really $300,000 a semester, more or less, from correct?
Yes.
And the planning on that for starting for next fall is underway, Dr. Porras. We have a plan, and that'll be presented to us in the spring.
It's actually January and February. We've always present that for the next 6 months, right?
Yeah, the next 6 months doesn't actually cover. It's actually the 6 months after that. So, right, because we're spending Series C money the next 6 months. But nonetheless, the plan will be continued to be presented to us on a
That's
rational
correct.
basis. And we should not have any major, well, it's okay. I shouldn't make any estimation. We'll see it when we see it. And I'm surprised that our cafeteria fund, while it is not a large deficit, is a deficit this year. And what is driving that deficit? I mean, the bulk you said was, well, we're providing a lot more meals. On the other hand,
Corresponding costs of meals, because we have to have the ingredients, we have the cost per item. We have to purchase the meals to serve, and the cost is really the food costs, and also supplies, other supplies costs as well.
I
So
know-
as you can see, it's $650,000 in here. It's almost, 3 times, 2.5 times the budget. 285 adopted budget. When we updated the meals reimbursements for federal from 178 to 930, we updated correspondingly the operational costs as well.
So that is really right now driven by food cost.
That's correct.
And I know Director Lips has done an outstanding job trying to get food, some of which isn't available. And we've had polls and surveys go out. And I guess I'm still a little bit surprised that we're not actually seeing a little bit more of a savings because of the additional, in bulk should be a little bit cheaper, but
Mr. President, the Director Lips' hand is up if you want.
I can't see that. So if she's online, sure. Director Lips, if you'd like to comment on that.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to mention that, nationally, we are dealing with supply chain issues, which has caused us to have to purchase ingredients that are off bid, off contract, just so we have food that we can serve to the kids. And the state is aware of this. And in our last school nutrition town hall, they did mention that there may be state funding to help cover this, in which we can pay back the general fund for having to spend more money than normal on these food products. And we've been keeping track of correspondences and notices from our vendors when there are price increases and stuff like that. And that's just something that we need to do on our end so that the state has that on file. So that's kind of what we're battling, and that includes like supply materials and things like that, like the packaging and stuff like that. We're not able to find a lot of products that are under our bid contract right now.
That actually explains quite a bit. I appreciate that explanation. And, thank you so very much for the job you're doing, actually, since you've put 3 times the meals on the table. So I really appreciate that effort. And again, thank you for piping up as to, we're now off label, so to speak, that costs more than we would. And I'm glad the state may be reimbursing. So this is a very conservative estimate at this point.
Right, and that's correct. Director Lip and her staff really work incredible hard. We had to adjust shifts to accommodate that. Now, of course, more meals. It's hundreds of meals per day more.
Okay, I have nothing else. Well, Brian.
I'm surprised as I look at it again at cafeteria with the number of meals that we're serving now, that the actual personnel costs, unless I'm reading it wrong, it doesn't really look like that has gone up much, has it?
No, has not. You're correct. It's just hard to find people too.
Sure, and I know that Director Lip was struggling with, I think, with staffing for a while and
Yes.
lines. How is that going now? So long as, again, we're talking about food and serving meals. If you're still with us.
I think so.
Sorry, I muted myself back. Yeah, we are, giving as much time as we can, giving as much extra time as we can to our staff that we already have here. But some of them do work, dual positions, so we can only give them so much time. And, we've been able to secure a couple more subs, but we can definitely use more help in that sense. So yeah, we're kind of like maxing out, our current staff and then trying to find more subs to come in especially when multiple people might be out. You know, there's only one of me to kind of cover them. So yeah, we can definitely use more help. So that's kind of why our the labor amount is still kind of the same.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's going to be interesting, I think, too. I mean, as I'm looking at the property taxes over the years, it's like it's been 13 years now since we had a major market correction. And it feels like it's looming. I mean, but I felt like that 5-6 years ago too, when we'd sit here with Bill Phillips and he'd always give us his projections. He was usually actually pretty on. But that, for whatever it's worth, it keeps me up at night from time to time, especially where we are nowadays in the market. And you get people that are calling you if you're a homeowner, asking if you want to sell your home, and that, that's a newer thing. So anyway, that's all, except for that. Thank you for the incredible amount of detail that you provide and the fantastic explanation for everything, because this is so dense. You could look at it for hours and hours and ask questions about this and that, and I'm sure you could answer every one. So thank you, Song.
Ms. Swanson.
Thank you, John. Song, I have just kind of a housekeeping question. I have seen this Fund 20 on this presentation for years now, before I was even a board member. And can we get rid of it, or why is it still there? We don't really use it.
I'll answer that actually. This was kept
Tell
on
me.
at board request. It was set up at a time when the state required you to try and put money into what would have been an unfunded liability. That requirement has since gone away. I want to say 4 years ago, we decided to empty it of everything we possibly could except a token amount. And even at that time, I suggested we get rid of it, and we went round and round a little bit. But the truth is, it doesn't hurt us to have this small amount, and keeping it open actually says we're aware that we have an unfunded post-employment benefit fund liability of, I want to say it's probably $900,000 right now. At any time, if you say really, it doesn't hurt us to keep it. It just says this still exists. So Song, if you'd like to add anything to that, but I think that's how we got there, Carolyn.
Yeah. Song, do you have anything to add?
No, I think, Mr. President, you got it right on. You got a history. And as a matter of fact, with the GASB 7475, I think it would be good to show this, because show that
I
you
lost the audio.
you intend to maybe pursue this some other time, because when we anytime issue a bond, you're rating based on your, not just what you're fiscally and also assess valuation, your property, but also operationally internally.
I would
Hear
say
me? I
it
can't hear you any longer.
keeps us completely transparent that we know we have a long-term unfunded liability that we are paying out of the general fund on a regular basis. And that's the only reason to keep it open on the books.
There
for
is
all
a re-
intents and purposes. It
Pay
helps
as you
us out.
go.
It helps us out in presentation mostly.
There is a requirement that the district inform the public that such a liability exists, even though we don't necessarily have to address it. And by having it, when this discussion happened previously with the board, this is one way to fulfill that obligation by just simply having it there. So it is an ongoing reminder.
Go ahead, Carolyn. Anything else?
She heard you.
Well, Ms. Dawson,
Um,
we'll come back to Ms. Swanson.
I'm thought out. Director Lip, I just wanted to echo what's already been stated. We've spent so much time during the pandemic talking about teachers and how tough it has been, which cannot be overstated, but also at the administration and jobs such as Director Lip trying to keep things going with all the new variations with funds coming in and expectations and supply line challenges. So a huge thank you to you. And I always love your pointing out what's important. As Trustee Swanson said, it's so dense, and the periodic updates just keep us informed, and you're so succinct in letting us know what to look at and what to note that's important. So thank you so much, Sam.
Okay, so Ms. Swanson is trying to get back in. Raymond, if you see her, please. Dr. Rivera.
Yeah, thank you, Song. This is beautifully presented and understandable. And you always do that. Thank you very much. I did have one question on slide 6. I'm not quite sure if you are the proper person to ask about this. Is when you look at the revenue for BASRP, I see this academic year, we're at the same places we were pre-pandemic. So I was under the assumption that maybe families wouldn't be so quick to send them, but it looks like I'm wrong. Are those numbers, do we know if we have the same attendance at BASRP this year as we did pre-pandemic?
I think at least the plan was going, and then I'll let Principal Orgerman speak a little bit about that.
I don't have the exact numbers of the children that are attending, but the numbers are comparable to what they've been in the pre-pandemic times. I think that, as the year has gone on and parents see that, the safety measures that we have in place have been effective. I think they're more comfortable bringing the children to school for the before and after care program that we have. So I can't say for sure that it's the exact same, but it's comparable to what we had in the past. The line is pretty long in the front of the check-in at the end of the school day. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
And then my last question is, I know that the revenue generated by that program feeds into the state preschool. Is this the game plan for as long as we can do it, we're going to do that? Or is there a game plan where the state preschool is going to be able to fund itself?
Well, the first question would be probably, was board approved? Is to be, a few years ago, we put it so that it's a action explicitly. Whether that will, if we do differently, maybe it's a direction that we can discuss and the board would direct us. Now, the state preschool probably is going to be difficult to be self-sustaining, given that we have only very few certificated and classified staff members. But the amount that from the state allocation is very relatively low. It's not enough to pay for the program.
So it sounds like we're going to stay the course for now. Okay.
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Okay. At this point, board, I need a 5-minute break and Carolyn's having some difficulty with the Wi-Fi at her. Would you guys object if we took 5 minutes and let her come back in? And then we will go into public comment and let Carolyn answer any further questions. So we will reconvene at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much. We are reconvened. So we will move back to our budget revision. Ms. Swanson, you asked specifically about a fund, and I'm not sure if you got cut out in the morning or in the middle of that, but the reason to continue to show that particular fund is strictly to acknowledge to the public that you have a liability and it is available and we are aware of it. And if we were to close the fund, it would not be so transparent. I'm hoping that answers the question if we got cut off in the middle. Do you have other questions on the budget?
Thank you. Yeah, that does answer my question. Thank you so much. And the reserve, the 14.4% reserve, that I just want to clarify, that is our
In the official president's handbook, it does not tell me what to do under these circumstances.
Yeah, this is.
It's not on our end, it's at her house. Well, I think she will check out, and she says, skip me. So Carolyn, thank you for that, and we will do that. And if there are questions and we can figure it out later, we will possibly come back just to this question for you. So with that, do I have public comment on the budget book right now? Budget revisions number 1. This is an action item. We do need to take a vote eventually saying that we've acknowledged it in our current estimate. Public comment, anybody online? Anybody in the audience? Being none, I see no there. Do I have a motion to accept the budget revision?
I move we accept 2021, 2022 budget revision number 1.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Okay, it passes 4-0. Mandy, would you make a note that Ms. Swanson was unavailable for that vote? Okay, elementary and secondary school emergency relief ESSER 3. Director Silva and Dr. Hequist.
Good evening. Good evening. Let me let him load that. Okay. Okay.
If you want to advance the slide.
I want to go to the beginning. Okay, there we go. That's the beginning. Okay, so good evening. I'm here to present the elementary and secondary school emergency relief plan to the board this evening and to our community. Just wanted to give you some key ideas about the plan. First of all, we had to engage our community stakeholders to give us input on this plan. This is money that was given to us by the federal government. And so therefore, we needed to seek input from key stakeholder groups, which we will explain in a minute. Very important, the plan consists of 3 buckets of money. The first one is related to COVID safety. All the measures that we've been doing in the last almost 2 years now to make sure that our students are safe as they come to school. The second bucket of money is around instructional learning loss. And what are we doing to mitigate that at the schools? And then any other remaining funds we'd also have to address those in the plan. And as you can see by the plan, there were no remaining funds. So we used up all of the money. Another big component of the plan is how we will measure measure the progress of the plan that we are implementing for our students. And so that was a very key component of the plan. I also want to point out, as you look at the plan, you see that I reference other plans like the LCAP and the Extended Learning Opportunities Grants Plan. And so the ESSER monies are intended to supplement, so to speak, existing plans, as well as new things that come up. The plan is fluid, meaning that, or flexible in that, we make a plan, we make an idea to carry it out, and then things happen and we might need to adjust, which is what I'm talking about here in this second slide. So as you know, this plan has to be adopted before October 29th, which is tomorrow. Within 5 days, I will send the plan to the county office and they will approve it, review and approve. And then they send it on to the California Department of Education. And they will report back to us by the 21st of January. As I said, it is a living document, so we may update it as things change. As you know, even with our Extended Learning Opportunities Grant Plan, we've been having some big challenges in finding instructional aids. So we've had to make some adjustments along the way. There will be an annual update. And that annual update is probably going to be attached to the LCAP. So you see the LCAP is growing by leaps and bounds. Every time I find out I have to do one more thing for the LCAP. So just so you know, in February, very soon. Anyway, so with that, I just want to just share with you that in addition to our stakeholder meetings at the sites, we sent out a survey that encompassed everybody, the stakeholders, the teachers, the students, our classified staff, our administrators, and I don't think I'm holding anybody else, but Dr. Hackwist is going to take over from here. I'm so grateful to him for having done the coding to the responses, and he will take it from here. There we go.
Thank you, Director Silva. So Director Silva just asked me to analyze the responses of the survey that was sent out via Catapult. This was a survey that was open from, I think it was October 6th to October 11th, and it went to several different stakeholder groups. It was simple. It had 4 questions to gather input. And the first question was around the stakeholder groups to make sure that we had representation. And you'll see on the report that I provided you that this was especially helpful because we got a lot more representation from parent groups in this survey. And then the breakdown is provided for you. The second question was interesting. And I discovered that question really was there because it needed to be there. And as far as the state goes, and making sure that we are making an effort to reach out to underrepresented populations, and that it's a good reminder from the state that we're constantly doing that. And so we want to be able to document that too, not just do it, but to show that we are doing it. And so you'll see in the report as well that the people that were reached out to represent some of the traditionally underrepresented populations like English language learners, homeless foster care, those types of groups. And that's available on page 3 of the report. The third question gave a list of priorities. Those priorities came from recommendations from the state, combined with input that we had gotten from some of the previous work that we've done, some of which you have seen, the board has seen, to establish some of those priorities and to see what the stakeholder groups thought were most important in that list. And they were given an opportunity to choose 5 out of 9. And so we got to see that's the results of that is provided for you as well. What I was able to do is I was able to take the last 2, the highest priorities, and 4, which was the item number 4 on the survey, which was written input. And I was able to code that input similarly to the way that I did last time with my qualitative coding software, which allows me to just tease out all of the details and to divide the input into data segments and to calculate frequency so we can see what is most popular amongst the written information. And these were the top priorities that came out. Number 1, and this is an overlap of other information I've reported about before. Social emotional learning was by far the top priority, opportunities and support for social emotional learning. Number 2 was academic supports in language, arts, and math. Number 3 was COVID safety. 4 was small group instruction. And then the last one was culture building, which involves some of the work that we're going to be doing with teaching about race and ethnic tolerance and things like that. So there's more in the report. If you're interested, happy to answer any questions. And Director Silva is going to put the bookend on this presentation.
So grateful to be working with Dr. Hackwist, I have to tell you. And thank you very much. So I just want to pretty much say that I feel really, really good about this plan because we are addressing the needs of our community, of our students specifically, and looking at the top priorities that were given to us by our stakeholders is exactly what we're doing. I mean, as you can see in the plan, we're addressing each and every one of those needs. So I feel very, very good about it. And so now what I'd like to do is answer any questions that you might have about the plan.
Well, what is McKinney-Vento?
I'm sorry?
McKinney-Vento is a federal statute that requires us to take a look at the needs of homeless students.
Oh,
And
Right,
and
right.
those are targeted populations that we need to serve. And so that comes into play.
Okay, so it doesn't, it's not a subset of homeless in some manner. It actually says we have to, we have a number of homeless students.
We have to address the needs. of-
McKinney-Vento is the federal statute that says we have to recognize them.
Yes, correct. And address their needs.
It's not a subset somehow or a special. group.
No.
No questions on what's been presented. I will defer. I will start with Ms. Swanson. Hopefully she's up here.
Hi, yeah, I'm just getting all my devices back. I had a glitch on my end on the Wi-Fi. Thank you for the presentation. Okay, so my questions. Yeah, so I was looking over the first part. It's on page 101. It's actually page 4 of 16 of the report.
Mommy,
And yeah,
I need a barrier.
can you guys come back to me? I'm sorry.
Mr. Swanson.
I don't know if I have any questions. Again, more observations. It didn't, I guess, doesn't come as a surprise at the emotional. It's like, that's the part, right? I mean, the COVID concerns are halfway down the list. I'm glad they've been addressed. I'm impressed with all the detail again that went into this. I mean, you must live your life just filling out forms. I think you do.
I'm becoming a professional plan writer.
Yeah, I think you like it though. So, but the amount of detail, it's really great to look at it because so many areas have been covered. It's very, very thorough and a ton of detail here. There's a lot of money. And I'm sure that we could have found ways to spend more if there was too. And it's frustrating that we can't fill some of these positions, but I get that too. It's industry wide, it's nationwide, it's probably, I'm sure it's global too. So, but no real questions, just appreciation of the work that both of you put into this. Because I know too what motivates you and where your hearts are and your passion is, and it's addressing how do we take care of our students again from an academic standpoint and a social emotional standpoint, because they go hand in hand anyway. So thank you for the passion that you bring to it and all the extra work that went into this.
Thank you. And I also want to commend to our site leaders because, I mean, this really is a group effort because, they are, what do they call it? The boots on the ground. Is that the saying? And so, they see firsthand, so really it's a team effort on really looking at what are the needs of our community, of our students and our people. So yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Ms. Swanson.
Thank you. Thank you all for your patience with me tonight. I do have some questions. So I was looking at the first goal, the ones where we're assigning ESSER 3 funds to be used to implement strategies for continuous and safe in-person learning. And I heard earlier in the meeting that we're doing pretty good on our PPE gear, and our COVID testing I know is being supplied, I believe, for free through the state. So there's $40,000 assigned to that. Is that money that maybe can be reassigned to more boots on the ground?
You're referring to more people?
Yes. Yeah.
When we said to provide all staff and students with the appropriate PPE, this is where we say the plan is fluid, because if we don't need $40,000 for specific PPE gear and we need it more for people to do this work, then that's what we will do. So it just depends on what, like I said, this plan, by the way, is, and I should have said this, I think it's in the board cover, but it is money that's intended to be spent by December of 2024. Yeah. So we have time to make adjustments to this plan according to how things play out. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was hoping that we would have more more positions on this item, like bus drivers and health assistants for, and I think there is a new position for a health clerk. So I was excited to see that supervision, additional noon duty supervision, because I know that that's desperately needed, but there's only 11,000 in. So are you saying that this report is just kind of, I guess my concern is that if we're going to have an item with almost 4 times the amount of money assigned to COVID testing and PPE gear than we do to staff that can help the kids in the classroom or on the playground, then we may have kind of a confused goals that we're setting forth in this plan. So, sorry.
Like I said, this can change. This can change according to the needs that we
Can it change now? I mean, or should it change now? It could, because right now where we are, we don't need 40,000 for PPE. So I would like to see it reflect where we are right now.
Well, I will defer to Song, because like I said, this is related to what we think we're going to need regarding this was a need from the community that was called out. So I will defer to Song about $40,000 for this.
Actually, if I may, Mr. President, I think at this point, if there are any suggestions that the board would have in regards to a change in the presented plan, it's open for the board to discuss, and we would encourage the board to make any motion or recommendation for a change.
I appreciate that. This is a budget.
Yes.
Budgets are not locked in stone. In fact, I had an old CFO who used to tell me, well, now I've put the budget together, let's make everything work. And at the end of the day, hope we end up with the same amount. So I look at a number like that and I say, well, okay, someone has put in a small amount on the off chance we really, really need it. But by mid-June, we will have swapped that out. And we have not just, one teacher here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's something like 9 additional staff here. So it will be reflected. It will eventually change. And as we see PPE, but on the other hand, do you say, does that also include, what if we need we get a leak and we have to change all the HVAC filters at the middle school? Where does that come out of the California? I'm pretty sure they're not going to fund HVAC filters. So leaving it with something in there, not a lot, is reasonable, knowing that it is a budget and it will change. It'll reflect what we actually need as we go through month after month. Eventually, we're going to get to March and we're not going to worry about those HVAC filters. So anything we have in there for that would just say, okay, sweep that into the next. We don't need that contingency.
Okay, and so John, I'm glad you brought up the HVAC filters, because as I was reading this, I thought, gosh, that sounds like Measure D money right there. But you're saying this is just supplemental money that is kind of a backup plan in case we run out of our other funds? Is that what
I viewed it as money that is earmarked to say, okay, we have a plan. If we need it, we can use this in this domain. But with the flexibility, knowing in fact that we will have great flexibility as we go through 2024 to move that to where we really want it. And I believe that this will, Carolyn, I believe it'll change actually pretty significantly how we actually spend certain aspects of this.
I do too. That's why I was concerned reading this document that's in writing. It didn't seem quite where we are right now. So that it's not where we are right now, that it will just kind of change and be brought back to where we are in the future.
Well, it's a budget. It's a budget, and it's a plan. It's not what we're paying out at this moment in time. Right. So, and then, granted, there are people who say, no, I budgeted $3.95 for coffee. I'm not buying a $4 coffee, but generally speaking, that is not, and you've run a business, so you know that that's not really how it works. I feel confident that we will make those adjustments. This is something that sets us up to actually succeed downstream, in my opinion.
This is like a first draft in your eyes.
Yeah, we need to approve it. And as things change and as we collect and as we find out that we need to spend a little more money in an intervention mode at the elementary, we will shift money appropriately to find that.
And what's the process for that shifting? How would we be notified that that's what's happening? Would we be notified after the fact? Will it be part of the LCAP document that we're notified in that moment.
Question, Bonnie? I defer to you now that I've given you a position you have to support.
Hi, thank you. You know what, we can bring any change, that is significant, we can bring to the board for a discussion.
Well, I think
Absolutely.
part
It
of the-
doesn't have to wait for the LCAP.
And Carolyn, are you suggesting you want to see them in advance? And is there a threshold above which it doesn't make any sense? Right? If it's a $50,000 change, then I'd say, yeah, we probably want to see a little bit in advance. If it's $4,000 or $2,000 because something costs more or less, that's not to me significant in $1 million budget. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to, it's hard for me because this seems off for where we are right now. So I'm worried that when it comes back, it will also seem off where we are then. So to me, I do budgets for my company, but we make it so that it's accurate for where we are right now. I understand the contingency in budgets as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I might have to do with this is just roll with it and see how it plays out. I've heard a lot of thank yous from the other trustees, so perhaps this is perhaps I'm missing something, and this is just kind of how this process goes. But from the reading I did yesterday and today on it, it isn't. So I think I'm outnumbered in my feelings about this document. So I guess that concludes my comments on this one.
Thank you very much. I mean, I'll give you an example where I see downstream where we will almost certainly make a change. We either need more for high school credit recovery in the end, or we're not going to need any of it, right? It's either going to come out to some number where there's a lot more students there. And I guess I will just continue. My position is we need to put something in there. We need to hold it. We know the need exists or potentially exists. But for budgeting purposes, pick a number and it's okay. So thanks for your comments. And frankly, it's good feedback. And I think we all need to understand that this is a living document. So Christine.
I wanted to say that I really appreciate the stakeholder involvement. I think so much of COVID has been so frustrating for families, parents, community, trying everybody, educators, all people trying to kind of know where we're headed at any given time, because there was so much fluidity, as we would say, in the whole thing. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. I agree it is a document. I also don't want to micromanage you guys. I think part of this whole thing is you're where you are because you've been chosen to kind of guide the ship through. And I think over time, as you're alluding to, I think a couple of these, especially social emotional learning, it has become quite the hot button. And our ability to judge the impact of that, I think we're scratching the surface. So I love that we have time for this. And I think that my goal, and I'm sure everybody's, is the COVID safety thing, as time progresses, becomes less in our face and these other things can come more to the forefront. Small group instruction. I'm a big fan of that, and the culture building, as we can see even in the state level with Newsom kind of grappling with the whole thing of curricular options for our state. So it's pretty wonderful. But I really support you guys. I love this. And again, it's a template. You're just trying your very best to get it out there, and keeping us informed is good. But I have a lot of trust and respect that you guys are going to do the right thing as you move forward with this stuff, and appreciate you updating us with benchmarks and things that you have that can measure what's happening. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Dawson.
Thank you for the presentation, and just a couple of comments, not really a question. I'm glad to see that these are the top 5 priorities that the community came up with, because they're right in line with what I would want to see. So bravo, community. I see how COVID is number 3, and as the vaccine will probably be rolling out soon, I'm sure that's going to fall even a little bit lower. I think that's going to be a real game changer when that vaccine becomes available. I'm so happy how the survey went out. You're reaching out for the community feedback on this. And after you sent out the survey, you physically went out and stood right in front of the community and say, well, what do you want from this? I remember seeing you at ELAC asking that right in front of them. Tell me how to spend this money. I also remember you mentioning something about the, at that meeting, the high school level emotional counselor that we'll be able to have. Fantastic. And I don't know if it's possible, but if the need is there, I hope there would be some way that that is a little bit more long lasting. I know these are short-term funds, but I just wanted to make that comment. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to say too, that if you think of the total amount of money, the largest portion of money is going to social emotional and to instructional mitigation laws. I mean, it really, really is addressing the needs of our students right now. So thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Public comment. Do we have anybody online? Public wishing to make comment here? Well, I want to reiterate, I think that this is a living document. We have a deadline to put in play to even be able to do this, but I fully expect that you will be rearranging as we see needs. So I look forward to seeing at least a written update periodically.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to do so.
With that, do I have a motion to accept the elementary and secondary school emergency relief 3 plan?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Dr. Rivera, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Thank you all very much. Okay, we had a walk-on item, which I believe is waste.
Yep.
Correct. Dr. Hagquist, Director Silva, thank you again. E-waste. I guess officially it should be F. But, sorry, we'll do board calendar future meetings, which is assigned E first. Dr. Porras, do we have changes on the board calendar at this point? I was, but it's already lettered.
No changes
so
on the calendar at this point. Thank you.
No changes. Board, do we have questions, concerns about the calendar? This was approved last week. Yeah. Okay, hearing nothing, that does not require a vote. Public comment?
I do have a logistical question briefly.
Yes.
I'm just curious. So I know we don't have to have the town hall next Tuesday on this calendar, but we have to have a quorum. Is that true?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It is true.
That was interesting.
So,
You can add it to this calendar.
no,
It's
no,
not-
no,
it's
I'm
not
just,
necessary.
yeah, it's not a big deal. Why do we have to have a quorum there if it's not an official board meeting?
As it turns out, this was, we were going back and forth with legal counsel on this, and ultimately, as it relates to CRVA, he felt, yes, this needed to be a quorum board meeting. We can call it a town session, but it's still technically
As it
a special
relates,
session.
as it relates to CRVA.
Yeah.
So it's not for us that it has to be, it's for.
It's really more
because
the
of
topic, because it's more topic.
Because of the topic.
I would think, why not have it? I mean, if we're going to be here and we're going to do it, it's nice to have it noted throughout the year.
I mean, we can, it's just, again, it was a singular item. Usually a calendar represents something that we try to just, that's usual. It doesn't include everything that we do. It's typically, but because it's a meeting, we can certainly add it to there if you want, just as a record.
I'd add it. I mean, it's a testament that we did it. We're here and this is the date we did it. I mean,
So you'd
just
like to
add a
add
little
it?
box.
Add a box for
Mandy
November
can do
2nd,
it.
special meeting on Civil Rights Voting Act and redistricting. Okay, So now,
Got it?
well, you have that. That requires, that's a change of calendar.
Yes, so we need to take.
We need a vote. Roll call vote, please. Oh, wait, do I have a motion to accept that change?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Aye, good idea, Frank.
So we have our walk-on item. The walk-on item, I think it is so brief and understandable. What is being asked is that we have surplus of e-waste, and we have someone who is willing to recycle this equipment using, well, so we give it to a recycler. And our current estimate, it's under $2,000. I don't think there's anything beyond that. There may be questions on the recycler, so I will open it up, but Song, unless you have something to add to that.
No, that's
Yeah,
it.
it's a
Thank you
very
for taking this
straightforward
on.
Carolyn, any questions on this?
No, none.
Ryan?
Nope.
Not at this time.
Nope. Public comment? Being none, do I have a motion to accept e-waste PGUSD equipment?
Move, we accept the e-waste Pacific Grove Unified School District equipment.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you all so very much. We will move on to our last two items of the night. Review COVID-19 relief funding for K-12 education ending September 30, 2021. Ms. Chinben Dib, I would like to give a 2-minute presentation, but I am not capable of that, so I defer to you.
Actually, I think I'll just say defer to what is containing here. It's up to September. We did up to June 30th, and just from there, this is another quarterly report. I think I would just go through real quickly into the items because there are a lot of detailed items in there. It's going to be posted on our website. We have been doing that. It's on the upper left corner of on our websites for the public. And we show a summary of each of the funding sources for COVID money, but also for the details. So the first one, let's see, the total amount we listed under the information on page 118 of the board packet, and each round 1, round 2, and round 3. And of course, it's good for us to get a funding, but also comes with it with compliance, but also with fiscal accountability. It's really takes a lot of time for us to produce a report. This is just really the tip of it for us to show what we spend the money on. Round 2, of course, round 1, we will spend the funds. Round 2, this is ESSER 2, and estimated a little bit over $500,000. And from last school year, we had $187,000 left. And all this is will be spent this year. As of now, as of September 30th, we have $141,000. But we're proceeding to spend the money based on the needs and all based on the prescribed criteria of the ESSER 2 grant. Going to the page 120, the next page is ESSER 3. They're going to start. Director Silva talked about ESSER 3, and at that point, we spent very little. Actual expenditures, I think, is only the 2 pots. We have to really account for 2 different resources. From there, we already expended. The state keeps on expending. Just we thought that we have balance with accounted all the funds, and then we get direction again saying that, the resource codes have been changed. Now you need to do a different accounting. And that's why we always pivot to adjust. And then the window of the report is always very limited, including weekends. Normally it's only 5 days for us to submit our submission. But in terms of what we spent, 3213 is not much. It's on page 120. And we have about $1.16 million to be spent. The next one is AB 86, in-person instruction that we've been talking. This is We haven't spent it yet. We reserved it, but the deadline is by the end of this school year, this fiscal year, we must spend this money. And then going into now the next one, let's see here. This is resource. This is the next group of this AB 86, but it's commonly known as ELO, Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant. And we get two within this bucket, there are two segments. One is 130,000. This is page 122. And we must spend it on para educators or instructional aides, meaning classified. And that's about 20% of the money. And the other bucket is about $1.172 million. And you can see how much we have spent. And then on the last page, it shows how much we've spent, about $38,000. And I mean, the $38,000 we spent last year. And then as of September 30th, we spent about close to 122 and still at 1.142. Now, this is as of September 30th. If you ask today, we have already spent quite a bit of that. You know, as every day progresses, we spend based on what needs, and expenditures, allowable expenditures have to be within the criteria, have to be because of COVID. And with that, any questions?
Dr. Rivera, any questions?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Christy?
As always, thanks for the thorough explanation and facts.
Carolyn?
No, I don't have any questions on this. Thank you.
Ryan?
I got just a couple quick ones here. One, I think I figured out already. Meraki, that's like some sort of
a router.
security, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We had great debate over that prior.
And T-Mobile, that's our hotspots?
That's correct.
Okay,
That I
and
know.
then, and only because you provided so much detail, I have to ask about the one that just says additional site support.
Well, that's a good question, because in order to spell out every line is more like either classified support, like could be more noon duty.
Uh-huh.
It could be classified instructional aid. It could be a variety of them. So instead of breaking down each payroll, each timesheet, we just sum it as additional support.
Got it. Thank you. That's all.
So I have no direct comments on this. I have some concerns that it sometimes appears that we are approaching stuff which is day-to-day maintenance, and we are using one-time funds for it. And this worries me a little bit downstream, because in 2 years, this is gone and we still have to, you know, patch the roof, so to speak. So as we continue to do this, make sure we are cautious in our approach of what might be spent. And Carolyn's point earlier, actually, that, hey, you know, HVAC, which turns out is a really bad example if we're using filters, because we shouldn't buy those out of one-time funds one way or the other, but we also probably shouldn't be buying them out of Measure D, because that is an ongoing continual expense. So
That's a very
having
good
said
point.
that, I think we've been cautious, but we should not stop being cautious.
Very good point, Mr. President. I think we question that because as a business office staff is the first line of, you know, a really review in terms of every expense. We will question it. What's the nexus? Is it because COVID? That means it has to be anything additional. It's not because of the routine. I mean, as this year would be first time that we started spending a general fund for school supplies. Is it because whether we would have this to spend this money, whether pandemic or not, then it has to be general fund.
There are some things which are going to, and granted, you know, it's 2 years down the road, but we are probably going to continue to supply hotspots, for example. So somewhere that's going to go into the general fund. We are probably going to continue to expend technology money for where necessary. And that, yes, it may be out of a tech bond, but that's not infinite either. So again, I think we've been cautious and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the report. Thank you very much. With that, public comment. I should do what a teacher does. Mr. Garcia, just No, wait, no, don't pick on
Don't do
somebody.
it.
Don't.
Ignore him.
Just-
Put your head down and sleep.
Anybody online?
Thing online.
Okay, this is information discussion song. Thank you so very much. Okay, our last item of the night, I believe, is information discussion. Future agenda items. Dr. Porras, do you have any listed future agenda items right now?
I do not, and I have some responses to a couple when you're ready for that.
Okay, well, shall we hear those first? Go ahead.
First off, we did hear back from community high school in regards to the question about a student board representative from community high. Their request, both with the principal of community high school and the teachers, would be that they propose a student or students be provided the opportunity for a quarterly report to talk about what's going on at the school and to provide feedback and that kind of thing. And that would be in place of it, is seemingly of a student who would attend to every meeting. That's their recommendation.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to pursue that, we can then remove this item further, but if the board would like to change that or alter that recommendation, then we can leave that on.
Carolyn, this was your item. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was. And if they feel comfortable doing a quarterly report, that's fantastic. I think that's great.
Thank you, Carolyn. Board, anyone else comment on this?
I love it. And if they change their mind, we can talk about that somewhere down the line. I love that, though. I would love to hear from them every once in a while.
I'd like to add in response to what trustee Carolyn said earlier today. I know when I had leadership at my high school, part of it was we asked students who are ASB to find a way to visit board meetings. And I think that it was wonderful, and it allowed them to take information about the hierarchy and how the whole thing works back to other students. I don't know necessarily that they need a number, but I think it would be lovely for them to know how welcome they would be here. And it's hard to, I think, sit through the whole thing, but even if they came for parts of it, it would definitely increase information. I also know of schools that during conferences have talked about having board members actually go out to high schools during a lunch period or to the class itself and spend a little time there answering questions and being involved with students. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do. And maybe Principal Garcia, you could kind of check with that with leadership to see if there'd be any interest, because anything that would increase their involvement and our connection with them is wonderful. So let's try to set something up.
Yeah, I don't think that is a future agenda item necessarily, but that may
No,
be
but it
an
was a
action
good
for
idea,
you, Mr.
wasn't
Garcia.
it? Good idea.
Lovely idea, Ms. Dawson. Yes.
Just a moment. I just wanted a moment. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, not now. Not now.
Dr. Porras.
On the item that's listed for board member requested a student survey regarding food service options, we are in the process of making that happen. So if you like, we can remove that from future agenda since it's in progress and happening, or we can wait till it's completed.
I think it's good to lighten the load. If it's already in happening, that's wonderful. Good.
I'm in favor of that.
Frank?
Okay.
Carolyn, any comment on that?
You didn't get a chance.
Yeah, and the survey is not just about like the food service options, it's about the entire experience, right, Dr. Portas?
That's correct.
Okay.
Frank, any comment on that?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
a couple of questions that we have that it would be helpful to have further information. The first one,